I want to welcome you. I'm Dr. Doug Weiss, and we're going to spend several sessions together talking about having healthy sexuality. A matter of fact, having the best sex of your life. No matter where we started in life, we can always improve and have a better quality of intimacy and sexuality. I really hope you stay for all sessions because each session is an integral piece on how to have the best sexuality of your life. But before I do that, I really think it is fair that I share a little bit about who I am. I'm Dr. Doug Weiss, but let me tell you my story. My story starts actually before I was born. My mom, unfortunately, was married and had an affair with another man. I was the result of that affair. And I never met my dad. He had someone else pregnant, and the story goes on, I've never met him. That broke up the first marriage of my mom. And then after that, she got married to another man, so I've had 3 dads before starting. And what happened was, he gave me my name, Weiss. They were married. Alcoholism destroyed their marriage. 3 kids later, I was put in foster homes for several years, taken out of foster homes, met another person who'd be my dad through adolescence, my stepdad, was sexually abused, was abandoned, neglected, hurt, and then got into my own addictions and pain, had a spiritual awakening, and really began to turn my life around so that now it's been many years of recovery, almost 20 years of recovery in some areas, 15 in others, and have been on Oprah, Good Morning America. I've written lots of books about marriage and healthy sexuality, addiction, recovery. It's to help people who've maybe been in pain like me get where they can go sexually, spiritually, emotionally, so they can have their best sex of their life. I have a clinic that we've helped thousands and thousands of people get and stay well. So I'm excited for these sessions because these sessions we're going to talk about having what I call going for the gold. Going for the gold in sex. You know, we hear that phrase when we hear the Olympics a lot. When we talk about going for the gold, people who train and discipline themselves, those are the kind of people that get the gold medal. It doesn't go for the person at home sitting watching their little comedy shows. Those aren't the athletes of the world. The athletes of the world rarely are watching TV. They're out there sweating and groaning and being yelled at and disciplining themselves. And in the same way, in all areas of life, including sexuality, there's some disciplines that will be involved as we go through the process. But it's an exciting process because then we can have really what I believe sex should be. Sex is a triune experience. I want to draw something for you real quick. This, I know this is going to be hard to see as a person, but that's the best I can do. Sorry, after PhD you forget how to draw, okay? But sex is a spirit, soul, and body experience. I really believe the creator of sexuality, and in my context I believe that's God. I believe he created sex in a wonderful way to think that the Almighty sat down and said, how am I going to do sex? You know, he could have done it boring, you know, finger in the ear thing, it would have worked, you know, but he didn't. He thought, wow, I'm going to make this really a fun thing, but it's going to be a 3-dimensional thing. Sexuality it's a spiritual experience if you're having great sex, and if it's not, oftentimes, especially women will experience that emptiness, that aloneness, because spirituality is not part of their sexuality. It's emotional. Sex is that emotional realm where we connect heart to heart and bond with that man, hopefully in a marital context so that you can really enjoy that connection. And then also physically. So sex has 3 dimensions. Now, the people that are having the 1-dimensional sex is what I call the bronze. Yeah, you're having sex, but you're having bronze sex. Oftentimes this is outside of marriage, outside of the context, but even in marriage, you can have 1-dimensional sex where it's just body meeting body, hope that was okay for you. You know what I mean? It's not. It's very lonely, oftentimes empty, and that's the bronze. Now, there's silver sex, you know, where you're kind of having some heart and you're connecting and there's some value with that. And that's good. That's good. But now for me personally, now I've been married 16 years, have two children. I like gold sex. I mean, if you're going to have sex, go for the gold. I mean, spirit, soul, and body. My wife's name is Lisa. And connecting with her, spirit, soul, and body, I mean, it's the kind that makes you shout. It's fun. Because what happens is I'm connected to her spirit, soul, and body. And that kind of sexuality is satiating. I've worked with clients for almost 15 years now, and they repeatedly tell me how empty sexuality is. Because, they're not getting that kind of mind-blowing sex. They're not getting the kind that really makes them feel so good inside that they don't feel like they need to have it an hour later or the very next day. But they're satiated, because sex is designed to satiate a spirit, soul, and body. And if you're not having that kind of sexuality, you're not going to feel satiated. You're going to feel oftentimes used, alone, confused, and that can be even if you're married. Now, if you're not married, you're going to feel alone and confused and used probably a lot. I know that I did. And even as a man, I felt oftentimes used. And it sounds silly for a man to say he felt used, doesn't it? But I remember I was 16, 17 years old and being used and by women. And it was very lonely. I felt very confused. And so I've heard hundreds of women tell me how they feel confused with their sexuality because they're feeling used, they're feeling alone, and that kind of stuff. Now, why does sex have so much drive for us? Why is it such a great thing? I want to, if you'll permit me, I want to draw another picture, okay? I'm going to try this here. Now, as I take this off here, be patient with me. And I'm just going to put this down here out of the way. Now, I want to draw for you a picture that, unless you're a sex researcher, you've never seen this picture. And I want you to get this, because if you understand the sex in your brain and the brain of the person you're being sexual with, you're going to understand why you want to have the best kind of sex in your life. Because your brain actually is the most important sex organ. You probably have heard that before, right? The biggest sex organ is between your ears. But until the research has come out in the last 6, 7 years, we didn't understand why. I want to explain to you why your brain is so important to sexuality. Okay, is this okay? All right? You're looking like, oh no, what's he going to say now? All right? I want to draw for you. Here we go. Here is a brain. We'll give this brain an eye, okay, just for our example. And let's do this for a minute. Now, here's what happens in your brain. I know it's bad brain, but we'll live with it, okay? Here's what happens in your brain. When you have a sexual release, an orgasm, okay, what happens is you get the highest level of endorphins and enkephalins that hit the excitement center of your brain, right about there, okay? So when this happens, you have an orgasm, okay, you get the chemicals that hit your brain. And that's go, yes, oh yes, this is great, okay? That's what makes you scream and shout, okay? Now, if you're not screaming and shouting, we have about several sessions left for you to get there, okay? But what happens is you get this highest chemical reward. These are endorphin and enkephalins. Now, some of you might be runners or workout. You can never get the kind of release you get through sex, through exercise. You'd have to run a really, really long time, okay? Now, here's what happens. This is the way our Maker made sexuality. Whatever you behold at the point of sexual release is what you bond, you glue, you attach, and you hunger for. Okay? Let me put this in Psych 101 terms, okay? Ring the bell, feed the dog. Ring the bell, feed the dog, ring the bell, feed the dog, ring the bell, feed the dog. Remember that in Psych 101? Okay, well, what happened? When the dog would begin to see the food, he'd begin to salivate. Okay? Some of you have dated guys like that, okay? Now, here's what happens though. See, when you have this sexual release, you really attach and glue neurologically to this person. Now, this is so important for women to understand, because many women know women who stayed in relationships with men that were bad for them, and they were attached, and they couldn't explain why they were staying. Some of those relationships were abusive, emotionally, physically, sexually, damaging. But what's happening is here, if you open up your sexuality to a man, especially before marriage, you are going to glue to this man. And you know what? He is going to glue to you. That's if his eyes are open, and that's if he's thinking about you when he's being sexual. We'll talk about that in another session, about how to make sure this works for you, especially in your marriage. How to make this neurological process work for you, because you, ideally, the design was, wait for marriage. Have only this person And you will have this huge neural pathway to this one person your whole life. Now, many of us know couples that are, 50, 60, 70 years old, and you can tell they're still having sex. They still like each other, and they're connected. Do you know what I'm saying? And what's happening is you hear couples say, yeah, sex is better as you get older. It is if you're aiming in one direction over decades. Because that neural pathway gets wider and wider and wider, and before you know, you're 56 years old, you've got one neural pathway aimed at one person. Like the eyes of my wife, she has these great big green eyes. I see those eyes, and I'm telling you, it's all I can do not to say, honey, let's get the kids to bed early tonight, because I am glued to those eyes, and I'm attached to her as a person. Even though in my past I made mistakes, I learned how to do sexuality right and have this neural pathway, huge neural pathway connected to her big green eyes. Now, is this helpful for you? Because this can help you understand what goes on sexually. Because if you have this kind of dynamic happening, then it might explain why you're staying in a relationship. It might explain why you feel connected to this person even though they're not good for you. That's why I always tell women that are not married, stop having sex. Because then you can think clearly about the relationship. If you're getting all the rewards, you're not going to be able to think clearly about who's giving you those rewards. And then you might make decisions in the future that can really hurt you and your future children. Because suppose you're having this going on and you attach to the wrong person and you start having kids together. That's for life. And so sexuality, neurological sexuality is very important to understand because it will help you to understand how to have the best sex of your life. Now, there's a study that was done with Redbook. Most of you ladies are familiar with Redbook, the magazine, okay? And what they did is they studied 500 women. And I think they were trying to figure out something about sexuality that they could report, but I think what they found is a startling statistic. Out of these women, there were two variables. Women who started earlier, okay, and unfortunately now sex is getting lower and lower and lower in our teen populations, 13-year-old girls getting pregnant. Sexuality is very prevalent in teen populations. It's going down, but it's still more than it needs to be. If they start earlier and they have more partners, so if they start young and they have a lot of partners, what's going to happen when they get married is they're going to have lower sexual satisfaction long term. Now you can see why, because instead of one neural pathway, they got 4, 5, 10, 12, and it splits. Unless they learn how to do sex correctly in the future, this is going to keep them from having really, some people think that abstinence and keeping yourself from marriage is kind of an old idea. From a neurological standpoint, from a scientific standpoint, I think it's the hottest idea. I think we now know why this idea was so hot and why so many spiritual disciplines encourage us. I don't think they know the research why, but it's a hot idea. Having more partners, starting early, letting men use you is the surest way not to have that. And really, I want you to have that. So, is this helpful for you ladies today? This will help you understand. Now, this can help you understand men too. Because men, let me just take a side point here, men will often attach to pornography and fantasy through self-sex behaviors. And what happens is they've got this attachment to an object, and then they meet you, and they treat you like an object. And they expect you to act like something they fantasized about. And then I know many women have felt that in their life, okay? Like, I was just there. Or they get a lot of pressure for a particular sex act from a boyfriend, or even in their marriage, sometimes their husband. And it's not something they're comfortable with, but it's something that he has an attachment to because of what he's done to himself. Does this make sense? And so what happens is men oftentimes can learn sex inappropriately and then translate those bad rules into a bedroom with someone they say they love, even if they marry them. If they have this kind of training in their neuropathic development, they can, and if they keep this going during marriage, they can actually move into what we call sexual addiction, where they have their own private little sexuality, and then they have their sexuality with the person that they're in a marriage to. So that can hurt later. So this works for both sides of the genders, okay? So what you attach to is very important. What he has attached to before you is also very important. Both can keep you from having sexual success. So that might be some questions to ask him about. Now, during the sessions, we're going to do an exercise. And so I want to role play this in the first session. We're going to do what we call affirmations, okay? Why do we want to do these? Because what I find is that oftentimes we get messages from our family, from those around us. Oftentimes in childhood, we can get these wrong messages about who we think we are, what's inside of us. And so I want to give another kind of tape that we can use. Now, I got this little list of affirmations here in my pocket. Good planning, eh? Okay. But what I want to do is I want to walk through how to do this, because with your consultant, you're going to have to walk through these and do these over the period of these sessions so that you get maximum results. Because what you believe about yourself can often determine how satisfied you are, not just sexually, in your life. What you believe about you, you will act out in some way. And I want you to believe the best in you. I was working on my dissertation. I was working with some teenage girls. And they were in a treatment center for alcohol, drug addiction, abuse, abandonment, all these issues. And in doing these affirmations with them over a period of just a couple weeks, every day we get together and do these as a group. What happened is they began saying these things out loud about themselves. I'd walk in the hall and they'd be saying, I'm a wonderful person. And these are people who were damaged. And so sometimes what we believe about ourselves makes choices for us. And women who don't believe good things about themselves will often find men who don't believe good things about themselves. Women who believe good things about themselves often will attract a man who believes good things about them. So this is critical. So I'm going to walk through this one time, and I want you to do this with your consultant as part of the ongoing process of you having the best sex of your life. Okay, so the first thing you do is you get comfortable, all right? And you kind of go through a relaxation exercise. Now, I'm not going to close my eyes because that won't help, but I would like you, and when you're doing this, to close your eyes. And what you do is you get relaxed. Relax your feet, relax your calves, your legs, your abdomen. Oh, this feels good already, okay? Relax your chest, relax your shoulders, your back. Oh, I could just go right into it. I'm so ready, okay? Relax your arms. And then take your list that's in your journal and read these out loud. Now, I can tell you the first few times you're going to read them, you may not agree with them. It's not that important that you agree. It's just important that you do these. Okay, I am a lovable person. I choose to love myself today. Today's a good day for me. Today, I will listen to my feelings. I can't tell you how important that is, ladies, to listen to your intuition. I can share my feelings with safe people today. I am a precious person. I have gifts I value today. I am attractive. Gosh, if every woman in the world could believe that, wouldn't that be wonderful? And the way to solve that is be one who does. Okay? I am a positive person. People like to be around me. I have boundaries today. And we're going to talk a lot about boundaries throughout the sessions. God loves me. Knowing that is so critical, because there's times when no one else can touch you like God can touch you. It's a wonderful thing. I make good choices. Believe that. That's a wonderful thing, because then you'll start doing that. I trust people who are safe. I share my feelings. I am intelligent. And what happens is this becomes a template over a period of weeks if you'll do this, and do this regularly. I'd encourage you, not just when you're in session, sneak the list home with you and do it every day so that it gets into your spirit, it gets into your soul, and it becomes part of the way you process about yourself. Because you know what? If you have the kind of self-esteem that this is talking about, you're going to make good choices. You're going to make choices about your money. You're going to make good choices about yourself. And you're going to decide to make choices about your sexuality. So many women don't think their sex is worth anything. I think that's so sad. Because their sexuality is the most precious thing they give to a person. It's a great thing. It's an awesome thing. And if it's that wonderful, it's really good to give it someone who loves you, really loves you. Because if you believe the things that were told to you, like the messages I received in my life, I received the messages that I was not important. I mean, my dad didn't stick around. I was given messages that, get out of my way. My legal father was an alcoholic. They divorced. I was given another message. You weren't good enough to stick around. You see what I'm saying? Then I was given another message. Let's ship you off to foster homes. Even my mom rejected me. See how this affected me? Then I got taken out of that. I was sexually abused. I got the message that I was to be used. You see these messages? And then I was in my adolescence. And so what kind of message did I bring into my adolescence? You're no good. You're not worth staying around. I'm going to reject you. I don't love you. So what kind of decisions do you think I made? Very bad ones. Alcohol, drugs, premarital sex. I was in pain. And because I was in pain, I acted in pain. And I hurt some people. And I hurt myself the most. But I had to change what was inside my heart. And so what we're talking about, doing the affirmations, that changes what's inside your heart. And you know what? Only you can do that for you. I can't do that for you. Only you can. Now it takes discipline. Do it every day. And do this for months, And what will happen is you'll begin to believe that you're worthwhile, that you are capable, that you're strong, that you're beautiful, without having to be sexual. You don't have to give off that energy to use me to have value. You have value without giving sex. It's a great thing. And if you realize as a woman you have a lot to give as a person, then you're going to be making really wise choices. Is this helpful for you, ladies? It's very much, because this will get into your heart. And then you'll make choices for your sexuality. I believe great sexual choices are ahead of you. I believe that you can pick out who's not good for you and decide to listen to your feelings. I can tell you, I've worked with men and women who deal with sexual addictions a lot. And so many women have told me, I knew there was something wrong with him. Not with them, of course, with him. And, but I didn't listen to my feelings. And I made a mistake, and that mistake has been 40 years now. That's a sad thing. You know what I want for you to have? I want you to have a great marriage. I want you to have great kids. I want you to have great sex, great money, great time with yourself, a great relationship spiritually. And you deserve that. But you know what? There's only one person who's going to give that to you. And that is you. Now I'm going to encourage you, really encourage you, to take the next several weeks as we go through these sessions as a very important thing for your life. I want to teach you how to get past any past. I got a past. Any history, I have a history. And I want to teach you how to have the absolute best quality of life that will enhance your sexuality. There's some roadblocks we're going to cover along the way, but we can clean those out. I've had to clean them out, okay? And there's nothing that I'm going to talk about that I have not done. So I know it works. This isn't egghead stuff we're going to cover. This is practical stuff. I want to encourage you that take your journal, write in it, fill out the questions. They're there to help you. And that person who's with you, that consultant, they're there because they love you and they want to walk with you and they want to help you. So utilize that. I hope this has been really good for you, because if you understand how to have sex, spirit, soul, and body, you decide, am I going for bronze? Am I going for silver? Or is my sex, is my sex worth the gold? Am I going to make people have a gold relationship with me before I have gold sex with them? Or am I going to give myself in a bronze? You can, but I encourage you to go for the gold, because you can have the best sex, the best life, because you're a phenomenal woman. I don't have to meet you know that. I have not met a woman who wasn't phenomenal. Now, I've met women who believed they weren't phenomenal, but that's not you anymore. So, do your affirmations, work with your consultant. This has been really fun for me, and I hope that you got something out of it so that you can take the next step for you to have a better life.